there's nothing else, please turn your Bibles to the book of Proverbs. We'd like to read from Proverbs 18, Proverbs chapter 18, and verse 21. Proverbs 18 and verse 21. I want us to especially look at the first half of that verse. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. We're going to be studying about the tongue, but I want you to think about that expression, that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Let's talk about what that means. Somebody tell me what that means as you hear it without necessarily having studied it, but just on the surface. What does that mean to you that death and life are in the power of the tongue? Death and life in many places in the scriptures have to do with our fellowship with God. Life is when we're having fellowship with God. Death is when we're separated from fellowship with God. We better be careful about the words that we speak, because when the words that we speak are not pleasing to God, it'll lead to death in our lives, separation from God. For to be carnally minded and to use carnal words is death, but to be spiritually minded and use spiritual words is life. So death and life are in the power of the tongue, and we need to be careful about what we say, because it can lead to death or it can lead to life in our lives. The words that we speak, I think often, my mother had a plaque in her home that said, it's quote from David in Psalm 19, he said, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer." Let the words of my mouth be acceptable in thy sight. God hears every word that we speak. Amen. God's going to judge every word that we speak. It's important that we realize that though you might could kill somebody with a gun, there are a lot more people have been hurt with the tongue than there have been with guns. There are many, many more people that have been hurt in families with the tongue than with the fist. I know that there are men that physically abuse their wives with a fist or hitting them in various ways, but you can also abuse your wife with your tongue. Or the wife can abuse the husband. Or the parents can abuse the children. I've heard so many parents scream and holler at the children all their lives. And I just beg you, don't do that. If they're messing up, if they're doing wrong, talk to them or get a belt and whip them and fix the problem. But don't be spending your whole life with you upset, them upset, you hollering and carrying on like that. But remember, you can kill a child with your words. You can kill an adult with your words. You can kill somebody that works with you with your words. You can say something today that the rest of another person's life, every time they see you, they're going to think about the words that you said. There's a gap that we can cause between us and other people. We can drive a wedge between us and other people by the way that we speak words. Not just what we say, but the way that we say it. Look again at the text. It says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And all of you children, you need to understand the seriousness of you using words against other children or against your parents or anybody else. Doesn't matter whether you're an adult or whether you're a child, the words that you speak, they can lead to death or they can lead to life. I was thinking just then about the children of Israel when they were about to go into the land of Canaan. There were some that spoke words of death, and there were some that spoke words of life. When the 12 spies went into the land of Canaan, and 10 of them came back, and they had words of death. What were their words of death? We can't do it. We can't do it. Giants are too big. The walls are too high. We can't do it. What were the words of life that Caleb and Joshua gave? We're well able. We are well able. With God's help, we are well able. I think that sometimes when people are having a difficult time, that you can speak words of life to them. When people are having a lot of trouble, there are things that you can say to them that will be words of life, words of encouragement, words that will enable them and help them to keep going. On the other hand, you can speak words of death that make them want to just quit. Give me some examples of people that you might see day by day. It could be somebody in your family or someone else at work or someone else wherever. It doesn't make any difference. Give me an example of a way that you might speak words of life to someone. Yes. Highly commend those that are doing a good job. Let them know that you appreciate, that you see what they're doing. Yeah, I've got a list of about 25 different ways that we can use our tongue for death. And it causes division in the body. A house divided against itself can't stand. But you can look at lying. You hear the death that's in those words of lying. Boasting, evil speaking, cursing, profanity, bearing false witness, backbiting, slandering, tale-bearing. The list just goes on and on of ways that we can use our tongues that the end result is death. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. I would say the most important place that everybody here needs to be careful about your words is at home. I'm much more careful about the words I speak around you than I am about the words I speak at home. And we can greatly enhance the joy in our homes by having words of life. Every one of us here, husbands to wives, wives to husbands, parents to children, children to parents, all of those communications that go on, they can be words of life or they can be words of death. It's very, very important that you not do more harm when you're trying to save somebody from the erroneous way. You can do more harm than good. And so we need to seek out acceptable words to know how to speak words of truth when we're talking to someone about something that's wrong. We need to seek out acceptable words. And God is the only one that can give us those acceptable words. We don't need to ignore the situation, but when you do address situations and you're trying to help someone get on the straight and narrow path, you need to be very, very careful about the words that you use to do that. Turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 12 very quickly. Matthew chapter 12. Matthew 12, starting in verse 34. I need another volunteer, but would you read Matthew 12, read starting in verse 34.
A generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh.
All right, let's pause there. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So if the words that are coming out of our mouth, if they're words of death, what does that tell you about our heart? It means the heart's dead also. It's the evil heart. Verse 35.
A good man has the good treasure of the heart, bringing forth good things. And an evil man has the evil treasure, bringing forth evil things.
Okay, so can you tell a lot about a person's heart by the words that they speak? Can you tell a lot about a person's heart by the words that they speak, the words that come out of their mouths? Absolutely. Verse 36.
But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment.
Okay, go ahead, one more verse.
For by thy word thou shalt be justified, and by thy word thou shalt be condemned.
Okay, the Word of God says in verse 36 that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. How does that make you feel? Every idle word, doesn't say every evil word, but every idle word. How many idle words do we have? The Word of God says that a man of wisdom is a man of few words. A man of wisdom is a man that doesn't have a lot of idle words, and we're going to be judged by every idle word that we speak. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. It's a marvelous and a strong statement that helps us to see and know and better understand that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Go with me to James. Everyone knows that if you're going to talk about the tongue, the book of James is one of the most important books of the Bible. Speaks of quite a bit about the tongue. James chapter 1, verse 26. James chapter 1 and verse 26.
If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain.
All the religion's useless. That's hard to swallow, isn't it? All, go to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, read the Bible, and all that. But if you don't control the tongue, then all your religion is in vain. So does that stress the importance of the tongue? That you can tear down everything you built up with the tongue. You can do all kinds of good things. You can go to the nursing home. You can just be a great example in so many ways, and then your tongue just tear it all down. So I hope that God will impress on our minds that if we don't bridle our tongue, then our religion is in vain. We're no example to other people in any way if our tongue is not under control. Is there anybody here that can describe what my tongue looks like? Anybody here? Can you identify me by my tongue? You don't know what my tongue looks like, do you? You don't hardly ever see it. I mean, I might stick it out at you every now and then, but not too often. But you can't really identify somebody by their tongue. By looking at it, you can't identify it. But when you listen to it, you can tell pretty much. I can close my eyes and we could just go all over this building and one person speak, another one speak. I can sit here and identify who it is by the sound of your voice. But you also can pretty well tell who it is by the words they're saying. And I think probably most of us are either identified by words of death or words of life. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessings and cursings, and these things ought not to be.